we often have an intro question here just to get the juices flowing, get the blood
flowing.
Get the blood flowing. Well, Manscaped's also sponsoring this show. I'll speak about it a little bit later. Now, we had something planned, but then something over the last sort of 24 hours has kicked off on the social media, and we thought, well, this is actually far better to get into. Now, many of you who listen to this show will follow us through social media. And someone who sent in, what was his name? His name was Vladimir Pakovsky. But that was his Twitter handle. Yep. He sent in a clip from, I believe it's Western Australian Premier Cricket.
How do you know that? We'll get into that.
Now that I'm looking at this image right now on Instagram, and there's actually the Wacker thumbnail.
Okay.
The bug in the corner. Anyway, the question to it is: at Grade Cricketer, appeal of the century? Question mark. Now, what I'll do is in the edit of this, we'll put up the actual video that's sort of going around
on YouTube.
On the YouTubes. But for those listening to the audio, means Spotify, iTunes, etc. We're just going to play the audio. You want to say something?
We'll play the audio, and obviously it's not perfect because you can't see the images to go with it. But most people listening out there will be very familiar when they close their eyes, listening to the sounds of this, and just hang on for the very end of it, for the final cry, which will make sense once you play it.
Let's have a listen.
Go.
Do it again?
Yeah, go.
We'll do it again.
It's the end.
Right at the end here.
Okay, so listen.
Oh, fuck me.
I reckon a lot of people who are listening to this right now have probably already seen this clip. But if you haven't, you don't need an explanation. But very quickly, that is the sound of a vociferous appeal. Yeah. And it's for caught behind, which is relevant. We'll get into that.
Sure.
That the umpire turns down.
Yeah.
And the appeals continue. And finally, the bloke from mid-on who has absolutely screamed in to throw himself in front of the stumps has actually backslammed himself while simultaneously throwing in a final desperate "how is that?" as though the umpire hadn't quite registered the initial appeal.
Yeah.
And the funny thing,
how is that?
You know, the way his voice kind of warbles as his back hits the ground.
There's a little vibrato, little.
Now, you know, and listening to the clip again, there's a little giggle from a female voice just afterwards, a bit imperceptible. If you turn it up, you can hear it as well. It's just at that moment when the team realises they're not going to get the decision. And, I mean, it's hard to... There's been a fallout from this as well, hasn't there, Higgos? Well, we both kind of remarked about it on social.
It's happening as we go to air.
Yeah.
Now, what's happened was the guy who's batting... forget his name. His last name's Batega, I think. He's probably listening. I apologise if I got your name wrong. But his top comment on Instagram, and he said, "For the record, I didn't hit it."
Yeah, because he's wafted outside off stump. He's wafted, and it's not a very definite stroke. It's neither attacking nor defending. But that doesn't matter. He's wafted outside off stump, so it's not as though the ball is kind of advice, is it? It's not as though the ball is kind of working its way through bat and pad, and it's all a bit of a scramble. It's really
either bat or nothing.
He's either hit it or he hasn't.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And turns out he hasn't.
Yeah.
Now that's what's happened is now underneath, not underneath that comment, but there's other replies to the post. This is on the gram, and it's just gone into a fucking war of words of blokes ripping into each other. One guy's calling for the Wacker Association to suspend this guy. Then there's other people piling on. Oh my God!
That's why people have referred to the mid-on appealer as like the worst bloke in the
worst bloke. We've got
to be careful here.
Everyone knows. Do they?
Because we've put a few things up recently, whether it's through Channel 7 or whatever, and like, you know, with That's Village, and like people are getting doxxed now. You know, they're getting tagged in.
Yeah.
So, like, our view on that is just fucking settle down. You know, when you're on the field, it's just funny. The way he's behaved is merely funny. Oh, it's obviously disgraceful. I mean, he's had truly an adult tantrum.
Yes.
Like, that's the same behaviour that my son, who's 2 years old, exhibits when I turn Bluey off. And if he does that, he goes to the room for 30 seconds, no more.
Is that Greg Blue?
Yeah.
Blue?
We're not giving Bluey highlights.
He's doing touchscreen. No, more Bluey.
It is Bluey in South Africa. His partnership with Steve Waugh.
Batted for a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, the appeal is very much.
It's Arrested Development.
Yeah. But here's the thing with that as well. You were making this comment off air, like it's a disgrace. But like there is a thing in cricket, and it is a disgrace. You know, I'm sure he's a grown man. Good.
It's really funny.
But you cross the line, you go over the line, and somehow in Australia in particular, it gives you this kind of unstated permission to behave like a child. Yeah. And so that's not the only piece of behaviour that we all kind of engage in. Right. So I don't want to like single this bloke out, but it just happened.
He thought he heard something.
But now that now that grade cricket is being broadcast everywhere all the time, that's a real problem.
Well, there is that. I mean, it's just highlighting what we've been speaking about for the last 8 years on the internet. It's all still there. I love the idea though that maybe he didn't even hear anything. He just wanted to go up for the appeal, because sometimes in club cricket, like a good appeal gets them. Like there were clubs who in Sydney who like they had good appeals and they used to get loads of decisions. You just pressure the umpires. You can do that.
100%. The problem with this particular issue though, he goes like this clip is that like they're appealing as though something that's so obviously out should have been given out. But the problem is when that's a caught behind and his bat's out there, if it was so obvious, they wouldn't actually appeal to the umpire the way they did. They still ask the question. Yeah. If it's so obvious, you just start celebrating, right?
Yeah.
And you leave the umpire thinking, oh, I've fucked up here. I've missed something. Yeah. But they actually asked the question. So once they engaged him in the process, then the inference was, well, there is a question here.
There's a question
and
here.
So there's a contradiction in him throwing himself to the turf.
That's interesting.
So that's just a little bit of naivety.
The appeal, inverted commas, if it's obvious. If it goes to second slip, it's more like, yeah. But the question was posed there. It was more of a how's that? How's that?
Just to the bowler if he's listening. So he started celebrating as though, because I watched this a few times, he started celebrating as though it was an obvious nick. Yeah. But I think he got a cue from the keeper and the slips that they were asking the question. So he turned around straight away. Now, a few more years of experience, he actually continues running down the wicket without showing his face to that. That's all just it. LBW, different thing, because there's an inherent question to the umpire with an LBW. But a nick like that, it's like, no, you heard that, umpire. It's more like you got to be bemused. It's like, no, we're in a huddle, we're celebrating. What? It's not out. Oh no, something's gone wrong here. Yeah. You've missed something. But that was they appealed,
and that's where you get to say, "Fuck me."
Yeah, and then you just hear the wind whispering past your ears.
Anyway, a lot of carry on for fourth grade.
Yeah.
That should definitely hit some DMs for that comment. Hey, Pep.